Story 1. My daughter has been prying at the door handle every night. It's gone from adorable to disturbing. I remember the first time I heard it. Click. Click. Honey, what's that? I asked my wife Carmen, after waking up in the middle of the night to a strange sound. What's what? She replied, in a groggy state, frustrated that I had woken her so late. But the sound had stopped. The next night I heard it again. Click. Click. What could that possibly be? I wondered, as I woke up my wife again. This time, she heard it. It sounds like the door knob. But by the time we walked over to it, the sound had stopped. Luckily for me, back when I lived in the city, I had always gotten into the habit of locking my bedroom door, and that tradition continued well into moving into my wife's apartment, and even our current home in the suburbs. The following night, we didn't hear the sound. Perhaps we were both in too deep of a sleep, or maybe it didn't happen that night, but either way, we thought the strange occurrence was behind us. Until the next night, when we heard it again. Click. Click. Is that what I think it is? Carmen asked. It most certainly is. I replied, a chill going down my spine, as the recurring sound was beginning to genuinely terrifying me. This time, I tiptoed over to the door, careful not to alert whoever was turning it, and opened it quickly, only to find my 8-year-old daughter, just standing there, staring at me. Christy? I asked. Yes, Dad. She replied. What are you doing, dear? You nearly scared me to death. I missed you and Mommy. It was so adorable, that I nearly forgot how creepy the sounds of the previous nights had been. That's all. But then she simply turned and walked away. Good night, Daddy. I climbed back into bed and let out a sigh of relief, relieved that my daughter was the source of the sound. But the next day, I started to think about it more. About the number of times it had happened. And how, after claiming to miss us, she simply walked away. So when it happened again the next night, I didn't open the door. Instead, I simply tiptoed over to it and listened. Click. Click. I heard my daughter tugging at the door handle, twisting and turning it, in a clear attempt to pry it open, while we were sleeping. Or at least she must have assumed. That's when the whole thing began to actually terrify me. If she was trying to open the door, and get into the bedroom, while my wife and I were asleep, what did she intend to do? I became obsessed with that thought. To the point where I couldn't fall back asleep that night. And hatched a plan to get to the bottom of it. So the next night, I did what any rational parent would do when their child was uncharacteristically twisting at their bedroom door knob every night, and left the door unlocked. And so, after pretending to fall asleep, I lay in bed, waiting, passing the time on my cell phone so as to not fall asleep. Until a few hours later, when, in the middle of the night, I heard a new sound. Not that of the door handle twisting and turning back and forth. No, this time, I simply heard the sound of the door handle turning, followed by the squeaky door opening. Click. Screech. I immediately turned off my cell phone and shut my eyes, just far enough so that I could see through them, and pretended to sleep. What happened next still haunts me. Lying there in the dark, my eyes squinting, I saw the blurred shape of my daughter open the door, close it behind her, and slowly walk over to my wife's side of the bed. She must miss her mother, after all. I thought to myself, giving her the benefit of the doubt. Until I carefully turned my head, just slowly enough so that my daughter didn't realize I was looking, and saw my 8-year-old daughter reach behind her, and remove from her pajamas, a kitchen knife. She held it up above her head and swung it down towards my sleeping wife. Not before I able to reach my arm out, and catch the blade in my hand, letting out a large scream. Arg. Christy. What are you doing? But she didn't reply. She simply let out a loud hiss, and seemingly slithered away, out our bedroom door, through the hallway, and back into her bedroom, where we heard her own bedroom door slam. We locked Christy in her bedroom that night, before my wife drove me to the hospital. As I relayed the night's events, my impaled hand more than enough evidence to convince her of what had happened. I would like to say that after we got back, my daughter returned to normal, the sound of the door handle stopped, and we went back to being a family, living out our lives happily ever after. But when we got home early that morning, Christy had broken through her bedroom door, and escaped from the house. Never to be seen again. Still to this day, I wonder where my daughter might be, still locking my door each night. I can only hope that others do the same. Story 2. There's a forest near our town where people go missing. My daughter came back, but she's not the same. I can't stop pacing. The old wooden floor creaks with every step, a constant reminder of how empty our house feels. The smell of burnt coffee hangs in the air. I forgot to turn off the machine again. Outside, the wind blows through the trees, making the colorful autumn leaves dance. My name's John Prescott. I'm 42, teach history at the local high school, and right now, I'm living every parent's worst nightmare. Our town, Pelham, is the kind of place you see on postcards. White picket fences, cute little shops, and a church so old it was around before America was even a country. Tourists love it here, especially in the fall when the trees turn all orange and red. But Pelham has its secrets. I should know, I've spent years studying our town's history. There are stories that don't make it into the guidebooks. Whispers about Blackwood Forest that surrounds us. Strange things have happened there over the years. I never thought my family would become part of those stories. John. My wife's voice snaps me out of my thoughts. Sarah stands in the doorway, looking like she hasn't slept in days. To be honest, neither of us has. Anything new? I shake my head. Not yet. The police chief said they're bringing in some expert from Boston, but... I don't finish the sentence. We both know what I'm thinking. Sarah sits on the couch, clutching her phone like a lifeline. I keep expecting her to call or text. I sit next to her, putting my arm around her shoulders. For a moment, we're quiet, both lost in memories of our daughter, Emily. Emily on her first day of school, all smiles and pigtails. Emily winning the science fair, grinning from ear to ear. Emily last week, laughing at my terrible jokes. Emily yelling that she hated me before running out the door. I should have gone after her, I say quietly. Sarah squeezes my hand. We both thought she'd come back. She always did before. But not this time. Not after our stupid fight about a sleepover. Someone knocks on the door, making us both jump. I rush to open it, hoping against hope, but it's not Emily. It's Chief Parker, looking worried. John. Sarah. Can I come in? We need to talk. In the kitchen, Sarah makes fresh coffee while I sit across from the chief. What's going on, Dave? I ask. Did you find something? He sighs, taking off his hat. Not exactly. But something's happened. You're not gonna like it. Sarah sets down 3 coffee mugs, her hands shaking a little. Just tell us. We've had to stop the search parties in Blackwood Forest, he says. What? Why? I'm on my feet before I know it. Chief Parker holds up a hand. Please, sit down. There's more. I sit, feeling like the room is spinning. Sarah grabs my hand under the table. 3 of our volunteers have gone missing, the chief continues. Just, vanished. Like Emily. My mouth goes dry. That's not possible. But even as I say it, I remember the old stories I've read. The ones about people disappearing in the forest. There's something else, Chief Parker says, his voice low. Something strange happened last night. We found someone wandering at the edge of town. Someone who went missing a long time ago. A chill runs down my spine. I think about the stories I've researched, about people coming back, different. Suddenly, I feel dizzy. The kitchen seems to blur around me. For a split second, I think I hear Emily's voice, far away but clear. "Daddy? Where are you?" Then everything snaps back to normal. The chief and Sarah are looking at me, worried. "Are you okay?" Sarah asks. I nod, but I'm not okay. Because in that weird moment, I saw something. A dark cave. And Emily was there, smiling. But something wasn't right about her eyes. "We need to go back to the forest," I say, my voice shaky but determined. "Now. Because whatever's happening in Blackwood Forest, whatever took my daughter, I have a feeling it's not over yet." The drive to Blackwood Forest is tense. Sarah sits beside me, her knuckles white as she grips the door handle. Chief Parker follows in his cruiser, lights flashing but sirens off. The last thing we need is to draw more attention. As we near the forest's edge, I spot something moving in the shadows. I slam on the brakes, causing Sarah to lurch forward. "John, what?" she starts, but then she sees it too. A figure stands at the tree lean, unnaturally still. It's a man, or what used to be a man. His skin is pale, almost translucent in the fading light. But it's his eyes that make my stomach churn. They're fixed on us, unblinking. "Oh my God," Sarah whispers, her voice trembling. The man's head turns towards us, the movement too smooth, like a camera panning. For a moment, he just stares. Then, as if pulled by some invisible force, he begins to walk towards the road, towards town. His gait is odd, each step precisely the same length as the last. Chief Parker pulls up beside us, rolling down his window. "Don't get out of the car," he warns. "We've seen this before. They can't seem to enter the town limits." As if to prove his point, the man suddenly stops at the faded "Welcome to Pelham" sign. He sways on his feet, looking confused. "What do you mean, they?" Sarah asks. "How many are there?" The chief's expression is grim. "We've counted 7 so far. All missing persons from the last few decades. And all, changed." I watch as the man paces along the invisible boundary, his movements becoming more agitated. "What happens if they try to cross?" "You don't want to know," Parker says quietly. But as the words leave his mouth, a police car rounds the corner, lights blazing. The new officer must not have gotten the memo about our town's strange new residents. He pulls over and steps out, approaching the agitated man. "Sir, are you all right? Do you need help? What happens next will haunt my nightmares for years to come." The moment the officer's hand crosses the town line, the changed man lets out a sound, not quite a scream, not quite a word, but something in between. His body goes rigid, every muscle tensing at once. He lunges at the officer, his movements a blur. Chief Parker is out of his car in an instant, shouting warnings. But it's too late. The changed man is grappling with the officer, trying to drag him across the line. His strength seems inhuman, his fingers leaving bruises wherever they touch. It takes 3 of them to finally subdue the man, dragging him back into the forest where he immediately calms, becoming almost docile again. The officer is shaken but alive. As the paramedics check him over, I overhear him muttering, his skin, it wasn't right. Like touching a mannequin, but alive. I turn to Sarah, seeing my own horror reflected in her eyes. "Emily," she whispers. "John, what if?" I grab her hand, squeezing perhaps too tightly. "We don't know anything yet. Emily could still be okay." But deep down, a cold dread is settling in my stomach. Because I remember the stories now, stories I dismissed as superstition and folklore. Stories of people returning from the forest changed, unable to rejoin society. What if those stories were true? What if whatever changed these people has my daughter? As twilight deepens, Casting long shadows across the road, Chief Parker approaches our car. "We can't go in tonight," he says, his voice heavy with regret. "It's too dangerous in the dark. We'll start again at first light." I want to argue, to demand we go in now. Every moment we wait is another moment Emily is lost in that forest. But I know he's right. Blackwood Forest is treacherous enough in daylight. At night, it's a death trap. As we drive home, the trees seem to loom over us, branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. I can't shake the feeling that something is watching us from the darkness. That night, as Sarah finally falls into an uneasy sleep, I sit at my desk, poring over old town records. There has to be a pattern, some clue we've missed. My eyes burn with exhaustion, but every time I close them, I see Emily's face. Just as I'm about to give up, a name catches my eye. Elizabeth Proctor, age 9, missing for 3 days in 1793. Found in a cave, eyes unseeing, speaking words not of this earth. My heart races. A cave. Just like in my vision. Outside, a wolf howls, long and mournful. But underneath that familiar sound, I swear I hear something else. A high, keening wail that raises the hair on the back of my neck. It sounds almost human. Dawn can't come soon enough. The forest looms before us, a wall of green and shadow. The morning mist clings to the ground, weaving between the trees like ghostly fingers. I take a deep breath, tasting the damp earth and decaying leaves on my tongue. Our search party is small, just me, Sarah, Chief Parker, and 2 of his most trusted deputies. No one else wanted to risk entering Blackwood after what happened yesterday. "Stay close," Parker warns as we step past the tree line. "And whatever you do, don't lose sight of each other. The forest swallows us whole." The canopy above is so thick that it might as well be twilight down here. Our flashlights cut weak paths through the gloom. We walk for what feels like hours, calling Emily's name until our voices are hoarse. The forest seems to absorb the sound, muffling our cries. More than once, I swear I hear a response, a faint "Daddy," carried on the wind, but when we rush towards it, we find nothing. "John," Sarah whispers, tugging on my sleeve. "Look." At first, I don't see it. Then my eyes adjust, and I feel the blood drain from my face. Carved into a massive oak tree is a symbol, a spiral with strange, angular marks branching off it. It looks old, the edges worn smooth by time and weather. "I've seen this before," I murmur, reaching out to trace the lines with my fingers. The bark feels unnaturally warm beneath my touch. Suddenly, a sharp pain lances through my head. I stumble back, spots dancing in my vision. A cave mouth, yawning wide in the hillside, Emily, sitting cross-legged at the entrance, smiling serenely, her eyes, somehow wrong, turning to look at me. "Come find me, Daddy." I blink, and the vision is gone. Sarah is shaking me, her face pale with worry. "John. John. What happened?" I open my mouth to respond, but before I can, an unnatural silence falls over the forest. The constant background noise of birds and insects suddenly stops, leaving an eerie void. Chief Parker raises his gun, eyes darting between the trees. "We should go back," he says, voice tight with fear. "But I can't. Not now." "The cave," I gasp out. "We need to find the cave." Sarah looks at me like I've lost my mind. Maybe I have. But I know, with a certainty that chills me to the bone, that Emily is in that cave. We press on, deeper into Blackwood. The trees seem to press closer, branches reaching out like claws. Twice more we experience that unnatural silence, each time lasting longer than before. Then, as we round a dense thicket, we see it. A hill rises before us, and at its base, a dark opening gapes like a wound in the earth. "Emily!" Sarah cries, starting forward. I grab her arm, holding her back. Because there, sitting at the mouth of the cave, is our daughter. She looks just like she did the day she ran away, same clothes, same messy ponytail. But when she turns to look at us, my heart stops. Her eyes are wrong. Not white or glowing, but somehow off. As if they're focused on something just behind us. And her smile, it's too wide, too still, like a photograph rather than a living expression. "You found me," she says, but her lips barely move. The voice seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "Emily," I choke out. "Baby, are you okay?" She tilts her head, the movement too smooth, like a puppet on strings. "Okay. I'm wonderful, Daddy. I've never been better." I take a step forward, but Chief Parker grabs my shoulder. "Wait," he hisses. "Something's not right." As if in response, Emily stands. Her movements are all wrong, too fluid, as if she's underwater. "Don't you want to come see?" she asks, gesturing to the cave behind her. "It's beautiful in here. You'll never want to leave." Sarah lets out a choked sob beside me. I squeeze her hand, trying to project a confidence I don't feel. "Emily," I say, fighting to keep my voice steady, "we need you to come home now. Please." For a moment, something flickers in those strange eyes, a flash of our real daughter. Then it's gone, replaced by an expression of serene blankness. Home. The word is flat, emotionless. I am home. She takes a step forward, and in that moment, I notice something that turns my blood to ice. Emily's feet don't quite touch the ground. She's hovering, ever so slightly, above the forest floor. My vision blurs, tears or terror, I'm not sure which. Because now we have a choice to make. Do we try to bring our daughter home, knowing what happened to the others who returned? Or do we leave her here, lost in whatever dark magic has taken hold of Blackwood Forest? As Emily takes another step towards us, moving in a way that's just slightly off, I realize with a sinking heart that we may not have a choice at all. The forest has her now. And it might not be willing to let her go. Edit. It's been 3 months since that day in Blackwood Forest. Life in Pelham has changed irrevocably. We've become a town of closed curtains and hushed whispers, eyes always darting to the tree-line. Sometimes, in the pale light of dawn or the long shadows of dusk, we see her. Emily, or what used to be Emily, standing at the edge of town. She never crosses the invisible boundary, never tries to enter. She just watches. Her appearance is almost normal now, but there's always something off. Sometimes she stands too still, not even swaying in the breeze. Other times, she moves in ways that defy natural motion, her limbs bending at impossible angles. But it's her eyes that haunt me most, blank and unseeing, yet somehow all-knowing. Sarah spends most days in bed, lost in a fog of grief and antidepressants. I've thrown myself into research, poring over ancient texts and folklore, desperate for answers. The government has set up a discreet research facility on the outskirts of town, scientists and paranormal experts working around the clock to understand what's happening in Blackwood. We've learned some things. The symbol we found in the forest appears in obscure occult writings, linked to entities that exist outside our understanding of reality. There are legends of similar forests in other parts of the world, places where the veil between worlds is thin. But knowledge isn't enough. We need a way to reverse this, to bring Emily and the others back. To make them human again. Last week, one of the researchers managed to take a skin sample from one of the changed ones. Under the microscope, the cells were like nothing they'd ever seen before, constantly shifting and rearranging themselves. It's the first real breakthrough we've had. The town has changed too. People speak in whispers, afraid that talking too loudly about the forest might draw its attention. Children are kept indoors after dark. The school where I teach is half empty most days, parents too afraid to let their kids out of sight. There have been more disappearances. Not many, but enough to keep the fear alive. Each time, the pattern is the same. Someone ventures too close to the forest's edge, and they're never seen again. At least, not as themselves. The changed ones, Emily included, have developed a routine. During the day, they retreat deep into the woods. But at night, they emerge, lining up along the town's border. They never try to cross, never speak. They just stand there, watching, waiting. For what, we don't know. Is it possible to save Emily? To undo whatever the forest did to her? I have to believe it is. Because the alternative, accepting that our daughter is gone forever, is too painful to bear. So we keep working. Keep searching. Keep hoping. And every evening, I walk to the edge of town. I stand there as the sun sets, looking at the daughter who no longer recognizes me. Sometimes, I swear I see a flicker of recognition in those alien eyes. A ghost of the smile I used to know. I'm here, Emily, I whisper into the gathering darkness. And I'm not giving up on you. Ever. As night falls and Emily retreats into the shadows of Blackwood, I turn back toward town. Tomorrow, we'll try again. We'll keep trying, no matter how long it takes. Because somewhere in that forest, lost in whatever madness has taken hold of her, our daughter is waiting to be found. And I won't rest until we bring her home. But sometimes, in the dead of night, when the wind carries strange whispers from the forest, I wonder. Are we trying to save Emily? Or is Emily trying to change us? The forest is patient. It can wait. And it's always, always hungry. Story 3. Something is impersonating my mom. About 6 months ago my ex and I broke up, so I had to move back in with my mom. I'm 23, and I've been living with her since then. About a month ago I broke my collarbone in a longboarding accident, so I've been out of work and at home most of the time because I'm not really supposed to be doing anything. My mom is a busy woman, she works hard but sometimes has to travel for her job. This week is one of those weeks. She asked me to take care of the house while she's gone. I told her I would. She was supposed to be back last night late, her flight was supposed to land at 10 p.m.-ish. So around 11:30 p.m. I hear the front door open and close and my mom go into her room and shut the door. Her room is on the first floor next to the kitchen. A little offended she didn't come say hi or good night or anything, but I figured she was tired and she just forgot, decided I'll just give her shit for it in the morning. I play my games for like 20 more minutes before I decide I'm tired and want to go get water before bed. I walk downstairs and it's pitch black down there. I walk into the darkness as the kitchen is right next to the stairs and I'll get light when I open the fridge. I walk past my mom's room to get to the kitchen and notice the door is open. I know for a fact I heard her close it and I did not hear it open again. Whatever though, probably just tired. Then I hear something move in there and I realize my mom must still be awake, so I say, not even a hello Ajay, just straight to your room. I'm hurt, she didn't say anything back. I thought she might still be sleeping and just shifted in bed, so I went to the fridge and started getting my water, and from behind me, from her room I hear, Ajay. I yell back, what's up? No response, so I walk over to her room. Keep in mind it's pitch black after I close the fridge. I get to the start of the small hall that leads to my mom's room, and say, what? No response again, so this time I turn on the hall light and as the light floods the hall I see she's standing in her doorway with an unnaturally wide smile on her face. I say, what the fuck mom, you scared me, are you good dude? She didn't say anything, just waved at me to come closer. I froze. I just told her that I'm going to bed and that I love her. I didn't turn my back though. I backed up to the stairs, and as I get to the base of the stairs the hall light turns off and I'm surrounded in the darkness again. At this point, I'm scared out of my mind. I hit every light switch near me and turn on every light in the living room, nothing. I bolted upstairs, grabbed the keys to my car and threw some clothes in my backpack, which was all a struggle as I have one arm in a sling. I notice my phone on my desk, grab it and see I have a text from my mom, explaining how she and her coworkers decided to stay another day to have fun where they were and not just work, and will be getting on a flight the day after tomorrow, and how she wanted to tell me sooner but hasn't had service all day. Yup, that tracks. I put my phone in my pocket, grab my bag and keys, walk out of my room and realize all the lights are back off. Hell no, I think to myself as I pull out my phone and turn the flashlight on. I just gotta make it there, unlock the door and leave. I've already remote started my car, I hear it running, it's a loud ass charger. I'll be okay if I can just make it across the street, I tell myself. I walk with my phone in hand, down the stairs. The phone's light sucks, it doesn't even reach to the bottom of the steps. As I get closer to the bottom, other steps start getting revealed until I see the floor, with my mom standing at the bottom of them. I look up and my eyes meet hers, she's looking at me and smiling still. She backs off into the dark with a wave. I'm still standing in the middle of my staircase, nowhere near a light switch when my phone lights up with a notification, low battery, turn on power saving mode, then my phone fully dies and I'm surrounded in darkness again. You are so fucking kidding me, right? I think to myself. I stand there in the darkness, just listening. The silence is almost deafening. I don't hear anything. If I make a run for it, I know this house well enough, I don't need light, right? I run and miss a step at the bottom. I fell right onto the shoulder with the broken collarbone. Laying on the floor in immense pain, I roll onto my back and begin to listen again as the pain subsides. Still nothing. I gotta get up and go. Then again from the kitchen, which is maybe 20 feet to my left, Ajay, and then I hear bare footsteps on the tile, start walking slower, getting faster, almost in a run now, coming right for me. Pure adrenaline goes through my body and I get up and run out the front door and across the street into my car. I get to my car and sit there for a while, waiting for my phone to get enough charge. When it does, I call my friend Haley and ask if I can come over, and she jokingly asks, "And why would a boy like you want to come over this late, huh?" "Nothing like that, I swear, I just can't be in my house right now," I say. She notices the seriousness in my voice. "Yeah, you can come over. Thank you, see you soon." Everything from here on out is not important, except for I convinced Haley to stay with me at my house for the next 2 days until my mom actually gets home, since I did give her my word I'd watch the house. When we got to my place, we started watching TV and she fell asleep on my bed and I couldn't sleep, so I kept watching TV, and decided I may feel better writing this here. But as I'm finishing this up, I think I heard someone lightly knock on my door, and the light in the hallway is off now when we definitely left it on.